What's going on, everybody? It's your observant Lineman, and we got a update on a story that's been going on now for a minute. Juwan James, the offensive tackle with the Denver Broncos, he got injured working at a facility that was not an official facility, was not his official facility with the Broncos. He tore his Achilles, and at that point, he was made aware that due to the collective bargaining agreement that the NFL Players Association negotiated, there is a stipulation in that bargaining agreement that states that if you work out at a facility that is not your official team facility and you get injured, you are now liable to lose every cent on your contract. And today, the Broncos, on a Friday, of course, because you don't want this to linger in the weekly news cycle. Today, on Friday, these Denver Broncos have decided to release James. They're not going to pay him a dime. They could have paid him whatever they wanted because they're not obligated to pay him his full $10 million salary. But they decided we're not going to pay you a dime, which, in my opinion, I think that is a failure of the negotiation of our CBA in the NFL. This shows once again that DeMaurice Smith has no fucking idea how to negotiate for the best interest of his players. This is what you have to understand. There is no situation in a yearly cycle for a professional football player in which you will be able to work out at your team facility the entire 12-month calendar year. It's not possible. You're not allowed to. So in the time that you're in your off-season mode and you are trying to ramp up to get ready to go back to training with your team officially, you would have to train away from their facility because you are not allowed to work out in their facilities. So if you get hurt in that time, you're shit out of luck. You have no agency, you have no leverage, and the team could decide to part ways in an instant without paying you a dime. How much sense does that make? This is why I feel as players in the NFL, there should be no criticism of players who decide to make moves that benefit solely them. When you look at players who hold out and don't show up for training camps and don't show up for OTAs in order to try and leverage the team to give them a more solid, secured deal, this is why I'm 100% behind players who do this. I'm 100% behind NFL athletes having their own agency and having and fighting for their own security in their contracts, because when you don't, this is what the NFL does to you. They set you up so that if you make a slip up anywhere, they get to ride home free and not pay you a dime. That is what their business model is based on, getting as much as they can out of the player and paying as little as they can for it. And in this situation, it proves that there is no loyalty here. There is no loyalty. And, you know, for whatever you want to say about Juwan James and his performance and his availability thus far as a player, it still does not change the fact that the NFL absolutely does not give a damn about players and their safety physically and financially when it comes down to it for them to make moves. They're not going to consider your family or the people that are dependent on you when they make a decision, because they made a decision on this kid and decided we ain't gonna pay him a single dime, $0. That says something about how a team truly views its players. You are cattle to be led to the slaughter. You are not these highly valuable assets. You're only an asset as long as you make them money and bring them wins. Other than that, they don't care. So you shouldn't care either. Get them for every dime you can and have no mercy on their salary cap. Have no mercy on it. How can a player who isn't allowed to go to his own facility stay in shape and be comfortable enough to go train somewhere, knowing that if he does get hurt, he's not going to get covered at all? It's like you have no insurance. You coming out of pocket. All of your money is getting run. So here's an article from Pro Football Talk that I want to take a look at very briefly. that goes into what Juwan James is feeling right now. Now, I know that there are people out there who are going to say, well, hey, the guy's only played 63 snaps. He's been an injured liability for the Broncos. Okay, fair point, but it doesn't really matter in this situation. There is a different way to approach things when it comes to injuries in regards to whether or not a player is worth the risk or is worth the value that you thought that they once had. I feel like when a player is injured, that is somewhat out of the normal evaluation process and whether or not you keep that player, because an injury is largely something that's out of the player's control. So you can't really penalize the player for something that they don't really have control over. And many teams won't do that. Many teams will provide for treatment, recovery, and rehabilitation of an injury before they decide, and multiple times before they decide that they're going to release a guy. But in this article, Juwan James is actually speaking out a little bit about his situation in particular. And I got to say, I can empathize with this guy 100% because where is the mediation from the NFLPA? Where is the actual people who are supposed to have your fucking back so that a team can't take advantage of you like this? Because make no mistake, whether you like the guy or not, the Broncos just fucked him. And they knew they could. And why is it that they can do that? Why is that even a stipulation in the collective bargaining agreement? These are the things that DeMaurice Smith needs to answer for, because he has done nothing in regards to helping shape a sound and consistent CBA for the NFL players present and in the past. Retired players as well are getting screwed by the decisions that this guy makes. So let's take a look at this article. It says NFL Players Association is advising players not to participate in voluntary offseason workouts at team facilities. 2 players on the Broncos have suffered season-ending injuries away from team facilities this offseason, and one of those players seems unhappy with the NFLPA, given that his injury away from the team facility allows the Broncos to avoid paying him. Broncos offensive tackle Juwan James, who suffered a torn Achilles tendon away from the team facility, stands to lose and, update, has lost $9.85 million salary this season, and perhaps even more than that, as the team could even go after previously earned signing bonus money. What? James indicated on Twitter that he's having second thoughts about following the NFLPA's advice. At NFLPA, if you're going to advise all of us, we need you to have our backs on the other end of this, James wrote. James didn't say specifically what he wanted the NFLPA to show, or what he wanted the NFLPA to show it has his back, but he quote tweeted Troy Renck of Denver 7, who suggested the NFLPA should provide players with either direct payment from the union or an insurance policy that protects them in the event that they suffer an injury while following the NFLPA's guidance about staying away from team facilities. These are the things that this stupid, corrupt, and completely watered down and mismanaged Players Association does for their multi-billion-dollar contracts of athletes. Like, they really, really don't give a shit. They advise us to do things, we do them, and lose this money, they do nothing. This is exactly what's happening here. So we take a look. This is officially coming about an hour or so ago. Broncos have released OT Juwan James after he tore his Achilles away from the facility. And, there are people who, in response online, obviously are going to have their opinions. They're going to say, well, the guy, only played so many games, blah, 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 blah. But no, this is really this is like unionship 101. Like, our unions should be working for the betterment of the players solely. We don't give a fuck about the NFL, just like the NFL clearly don't give a fuck about us. So the NFLPA has to do a better job here. And I'm just completely blown away, that each time you go through a cycle of CBAs in the NFL, you just continue to see that they do not negotiate with any kind of attention paid to the interest of the players. Our retirement benefits are getting cut. Players can be released without any kind of compensation for training. Like, where does this make sense? DeMaurice Smith is ultimately the one who needs to answer to the players and to guys like Juwan James, because this is unbelievable that there could be such a lack of a safety net for players when it comes to injuries. The same way that there's a lack of a safety net for retired players when it comes to things like CTE. There is no safety net. It's baked in that the NFL is going to deny you so that they don't have to pay you any of that settlement. We know that. We know that. And here we're seeing the same thing with players in real time who are currently playing. There's no safety net for you. Only safety net you have is when you're in those doors in that facility. But you can't even be in that facility the whole 12-month calendar year. So anytime you're not in that facility and anything happens to you, the team can cut you loose, no questions asked, regardless of how much money you've made. And to me, that's bad negotiating. So let me know what you guys think. NFLPA, do they owe this guy for what they advised him to do and for the results of that advice as it's now played out for Juwan James and his football career is now he loses $10 million from the Denver Broncos? Leave your comments down below. Hit the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to the Observant Lineman. Appreciate you guys once again for checking me out, and I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.